Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. One of my favorite people in the whole world is here today. Sylvia Bradley is going to give us a history lesson. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
You have devoted your entire professional career and life and all your time to history, especially in Western Wicomico.
Pretty much.
There's so much going on.
Yes.
Tell me what you have going on with the West Side Historical Society.
A lot of things. We have one of our new emphasis, beginning about 2 years ago, was to recreate the people that lived on the lower eastern shore. Now, that sounds a little gross, but what we're trying to do is find out who these people were, not just their names and the tract of land they had, we want that too, but what did they do? What was their inspiration? And how did they manage to overcome so many hardships and so many things that stood in their way and build the communities that they did on this lower eastern shore? So we have branched out in several directions from that. Our latest this year has been the development of a Rediscovering Delmarva lecture series, and we've had 3 lectures in that series so far. We'll have a couple more coming in September and October. And
these are very popular.
They are. We had to move to the Knapp Center.
Right.
Thank you to the Knapp Center for allowing us to meet there. Our last one was a talk by Phillips, and there were 50-some people there for it. They're free, and
his biography was interesting, and what he talked about was fascinating.
It was an excellent excellent presentation. So that was really good. And we've had Mike Hitch, and we had Ray Thompson.
Dr. Ray Thompson.
Dr. Ray Thompson. Ray and I go back a long way.
Yes.
Ray and I started the Knapp Center when
you
it
were
was
Ray's
the research.
organizer for a long time.
Yes, we were.
Dr. Ray's sort of a free thinker, and you were the one who made sure that things got done.
Yeah. Well, is that the reputation we had?
That's the gossip on the street.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
for 35, 45 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just found that out. But it was kind of fun, and so we're back. We're both retired, and we're doing it again. So, but we were working on that, and then we're also working in the town of Barron Springs, which originally for 200 years was Barron Creek Springs.
Right.
And so we got a couple of little mini grants from the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Council. We're trying to restore the concept of, I guess you would say, a historic district. When we talk about the places and the businesses and the people that made the place such a tremendously vibrant and active place in the Victorian era from about 1875 to 1915. And we have the core of that, of course, is the Adkins complex.
Right.
And then we have a museum on one end, and the Barron Creek Church was built in 1842 on the other end. So we're trying to appeal to the passerby tourist who are not from the Lower Eastern Shore particularly, although they're welcome to, and develop a kind of a walking tours and a way to experience that life and that time.
Now, Barron Springs, if it wasn't for you, I never would have known this. I don't know, I mean, even growing up here, but that used to be a worldwide destination where people would come for the spa and for their health.
It was a spa. Yes, the hotel was always full, and then the individual homes would open up any spare bedroom. They had that many people coming in the summertime. And particularly in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, if you can imagine how awful it must have been to have to stay in Washington, D.C.
Right.
With the conditions they had there, not just political, but the climate as well.
Right.
And so they would come down, and the wife and family of the Supreme Court justice or whatever would be staying in Barron Creek Springs for the summer.
And the train went right way through there. Yeah.
After 1890, yes.
Yeah.
Black Cinder and Ashes, they called it, from the Baltimore, Chesapeake, and Atlantic Railroad.
Right.
But it connected finally. Then the western part of the peninsula, and Baltimore, of course, to Ocean City, which was just beginning to get its real start at that period of time. So we're really active in the family history part of it, and we have collected a nice little research library that refers to the core, the old Somerset County and Virginia, some of Virginia and Dorchester, Sussex. So that kind of area is our emphasis in that. We have workshops that we've been doing now for 3 years, and it's not to teach you how to be a genealogist, but how to use the sources and
Right.
where to find the sources.
So much information is out there that you can get now. It's just incredible.
Yeah. A lot of it's online, but a lot of it isn't.
Right.
So, and that's what we're trying to find, the things that aren't available online. The Eastern Shore has the oldest extant records, historical records, of any place in the United States. Now, there are some individual records in New England, of course, that are older, but continuous records from the first settlers right on up. Yes, they have them.
That's fascinating. I know I interviewed someone recently, and they said that they moved here in 1945, and before the Bay Bridge was built, everyone here was related, and everyone knew each other.
That's true.
And she remembered her husband was taking her around, introducing her to people, and everyone was his cousin.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what town they
Well,
were
it's
in,
true.
from
It's-
Sharptown to Berlin.
Sure, it's true.
Everyone was related.
Yes, well, and
Before
it's
the
true.
bridge.
Mike Hitch's lecture that he did really showed that with real clarity. I showed you the map. You start out with like 10 families settling in this part, and all of a sudden it became 20, 50, 100, and they're all coming from that same route. They just there weren't a lot of people coming into this area from outside areas. I mean, Philadelphia had a huge influx of German immigrants, but until modern times, most of them didn't wander down here. So it was a very family-oriented population. Yes, it was.
You also like some cool little workshops, events. You've got a basket making workshop coming up.
Yeah.
And I look at baskets all the time, and I think I'd like to make one of those, but I know I never
Well, you're
will. But then I
welcome to.
read your thing about
Yes.
come make the basket, and
That's
it's
right.
very intriguing
It
to
is.
me.
Yeah, it is. Well, we started with a series of things. We call it Saving Our Traditions. And basket making is one of those traditions. It goes all the way back to the Native Americans, of course. And so we were lucky enough to find this lady in Hurlock who has made this her life vocation. And she does a little basket weaving class for us every year. It's a lot of fun. It's small, it's all hands-on, and everybody gets to keep the basket they make. And I've made some that weren't so good, but some of them turn out beautifully. They really do, and she does a marvelous job. So that's one of them. And then we started the vintage baseball game,
Which is amazing.
which is another part of our traditions.
People have no idea what baseball used to be like until
That's
they
right.
see that.
Well,
Yeah.
this was the early beginnings of baseball.
They don't even have gloves.
No, don't no namby-pamby stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and it was very popular during the Civil War because this was about the only thing that these young farm boys could do to just run off some steam or something, and you didn't need a lot of equipment. You didn't need that sort of thing. You could pick up a piece of wood in the out of the forest or something and use it as a bat. But what intrigues me about vintage baseball is that how different it is from modern baseball. In modern baseball, the goal is to prevent the guy from getting on base. That's not the goal in vintage baseball. Vintage baseball says we're all out here to get exercise and have fun. So everybody gets on base. Everybody is supposed to get a hit. Everybody's supposed to run. So and it's just an entirely different kind of take on what baseball. But that's always fun.
Because of your drive to keep the West Side Historical Society going, in my mind, I'm learning so much about the West Side. I lived in Quantico for 20 years, so I felt like I was part of that West Side. If Quantico,
You are. That's the West Side. Yes. Oh, yes.
I think Quantico and Whitehaven want to think that there's something else, but but anyway, it's always fascinating me, and I've always like, wow, so much happened in Western Wicomico. How come nothing ever happened in Eastern Wicomico? But things did, but there's no one to get that message out like you do.
Well, I guess you have to have somebody who is silly as I am, to put that much time in it. But I have always loved history. I credit my mother with that. My mother could tell you every relative we ever had, I think, and not just what we had, but then, you have to save this little picture because it belonged to Aunt Lone, and you have to save this little thing because it was a mustache cup that some so-and-so used. And it was just built in, I guess, from the time I grew up. And then when I went to college and I found out it was more than just keeping keepsakes, there was something to learn there. There was a lesson for everybody. So it's been my kind of my life's work, I suppose you would say.
It's funny how history hits people. I remember when my grandparents passed, my father sold the table that they ate at for 70 years for $80. And I was like, how could you sell the table for $80? Because that's all the guy would give me was $80. Imagine a piece of family history leaving the family. They ate at that table for 70 years. You can't give that table away.
Yeah.
So the disconnect was complete. Yeah. So the Knapp Center moved from where we are in this part of the campus at SU to the new building. What do you think of that?
I think they have beautiful place over there. It's really gorgeous. And they have all the good stuff that you need. They have people who are skilled and who are trained. And so it should be a real asset. When Dr. Thompson and I started that as the Research Center for Delmarva History and Culture, and they thought that name was too long. So, but when we began, we had two motives. And one was to ferret out and save all this marvelous amount of local history that is available in the area. And the other was to find some way to let students know that there are things that you can do with history other than just write your own family history or get 3 credits towards a business degree,
Right.
So we wanted to show them that there are actually professions related to history that you can enter and give them some experience in basics of that, museology, archival work, all kinds of things that you can do with that. And so the new Knapp Center can do that for the students better than we ever could. We just simply didn't have the space, and nor did we have the staff to do it with. They've been an excellent repository for places that said, I just can't keep this anymore.
Right.
And I don't want to see it destroyed. And they
accept that stuff. Like, you have it, you don't know what to do with it, take it to the Knapp Center. They would never turn it away.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Newspapers are particularly hard to keep.
Right.
And thank goodness now we have the Maryland Digitization Center, which is digitizing most of those things. And so that makes a big help.
So, like near Mardella Springs in Athol, there's a little village with some historic buildings. What is that?
Oh, it's in Mardella Springs.
It is Mardella Springs.
When we started West Side Historical Society in '84, I think it was, the prime mover in that was Howard Adkins. And a few years later, he decided that he wanted to go in a different direction. And so he left West Side Historical Society and he began forming his own organization, which is the Adkins Museum and Historic Complex. I think I got that right. And he began, he had no children, and he wanted to find some way to leave his mark. So he began moving buildings from either in town or from outside of town into this one little middle of the town of Mardella Springs, where some buildings had been, but some had been torn down, particularly where the railroad tracks had been. It was kind of an open space. And so I think the first one he moved in, I believe, was the one-room school, which a farmer said, look, I've got this. It was a one-room school, one of the earliest in the county, just north, on the north side of Route 50, and he moved that in and restored that. And then he moved the grocery store, which was one of the 4 oldest buildings in the town of Mardella Springs, Mr. Elliott's grocery store, and he moved it just kind of around the corner. It was built in 1838, and he put that there. Then he had a home, a farmhouse that was given to him, and he moved that in. So he created this little village of old buildings, not buildings that were in the site where they are now, but they were old and they were in the area, and created this little facsimile of what Mardell Springs had been, partly of what they had been in earlier times. And it's a genuine treasure. It really is. It's a very good way of learning about life and how these people lived, and
you can really see it, and you kind of get lost in it when you're kind of...
You can experience it. Yeah. Experiencing history is the best history, yeah. Reading about it is fun, but experiencing it is better, yeah.
Now, also, as the editor, I get a thing every year. I think it's this time of year. There's a school or a church that teaches these young women
That's
ways.
them.
That's them.
That organization. They started several years ago. Patty Parks, I think, was the one who was the mainstay in starting that. The Victorian Girls Camp. And it's all for girls, and they bring them in, the day camp, for the week, and they give them various kinds of experiences. They make bread.
It looks fascinating.
They make butter, and they learn to sew, and then they have people come in. Yes, it's wonderful art. It's a wonderful thing you do. And it's very popular. So that's one of their major thrusts, and it fits in this whole theory of what we're trying to do by renewing that Victorian era.
Right.
So it's all going to be part of it, yeah.
You mentioned the Knapp Center earlier. One of the popular things you have is this antique appraisal thing going on. Tell me about that.
Yeah. That is quickly become one of our major fundraisers, but it also fits our mission of preserving the past in various forms. We invite people to bring in any treasure they have. It doesn't have to be particularly old. It doesn't have to be particularly unusual, but if it's something that they think is important to them, they can bring it in. And we have, thankfully, Charlene Upham and Steve Blumenauer, who volunteer to do a whole day of appraisals.
Wow.
And when I say a whole day, I mean they don't take out time for hardly anything. Last year, and we have it at the Knapp Center because it's got the room, and they were willing to share with us, and thank goodness, we really appreciate that very much. But last year we started at a little before 9:30. 9:30 was when we were supposed to start, but people were coming in, and Charlene said, "Let's go." So I think it was about 9:15, and we started, and we were supposed to stop at 3:30, and at 3:30 we still had people waiting. They had their little tickets and were in line. And again, I said, "Charlene, do you want to stop? It's 3:30. She said, "No, we're going to stay until we're done." So we didn't take any more in line, but we were there until almost 4:30. And we saw some beautiful pieces. It's kind of our own version of Antiques Roadshow.
Right.
We don't televise the whole thing because some people are not willing to do that.
Right.
But we had some marvelously interesting pieces, some very rare pieces, some pretty things. We had art. We had everything from art to babies' trams to jewelry, just all kinds of things. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting and fun day. We charge $5 for one article or $3 for 10. And we do put a bit of a limit on it because the first time we did this, we had somebody come in with 15 things.
Right.
And we said, it just isn't fair to other people to do that. So we do put a limit. But that's going to be on October 13th, along with the Thrive.
Right. It's part of Thrive this year, which the Salisbury Independent's involved in.
Yeah. And that should be a really good combination. We haven't done that in combination before, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, the first senior thing that we had like that,
Yeah.
and it was tremendous success. I had no clue it was going to be so good.
Right. No. Well, we didn't expect that for the Appraisal Fair either.
Right.
It is I would say primarily a senior event, But the appraisals, certainly we had a lot of younger people there for that. So it'll be a nice mix, I think. I'm looking forward to that this year.
So it's kind of a quiet period in the summer because everybody's running around. You guys will get really going again in the fall.
Yes.
The wreath making thing's real popular. You got the basket weaving coming up, but then you have these book talks that you also do.
Yes.
So lots of events coming up. Talk to me about what the West Side Historical Society's got coming up.
Okay. We will have, not too much after the basket class in this on the 27th. We will have a couple of days, family fun days. We're going to have one in July on the 29th, and we call it Sunday Saturday because we invite people to come in, use our big backyard as a picnic area. We'll give guided tours of the museum and the church. And we'll have ice cream, so you can make your own ice cream sundaes. So
Wow.
Saturday.
That could get me out there.
Okay. And it's free. Donation, if you'd like to give a donation, we'll have some entertainment, we hope, music or something like that, and some games for little kids to play. So it's just a family day. We're having that. Then that's in July. And then we don't have much scheduled until September. Back in September, we will go back with our book talks, and we do have a book talk in August. I'm sorry, I almost forgot that one, because that's going to be a good one. Now, the book talks, we call it the Authors on Delmarva, because it's authors.
Those move around.
No,
Okay.
these stay in one place.
At the Vineyard?
At the Vineyard,
Okay.
Layton's Chance Vineyard,
Okay.
winery.
Indiana, and that's a reason to go there. I mean, that's
It is.
fun.
It's a fun place.
Yeah.
So we have those there, and we feature people who live on Delmarva and write about Delmarva. And our author in August is Mindy Burgoyne.
She's awesome with the ghost
Mindy
tours.
will be great. Yes, yes. This is also a free program. Begins on the Friday, I think it's the 29th. I have to check the date, but in August, and it begins at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon when people are ready to relax.
sauced. Yeah.
No.
Go to Vienna and walk among the grapes
But
and get sauced.
relax for the weekend. And then we will have one in September, Lady Barbara Lockhart, who has a book called Elizabeth Field. It's kind of related to the Tubman series. We had a Tubman author, and this one should be fun. So we have the book talks, and we will also have, coming in December, an event that has long been popular at Pemberton, a greenery project. And we started this, 5-6 years ago, where we teach, we first of all, we go out ourselves and we cut the greenery, all sorts of greenery. And then we bring it in several pickup loads.
Wow.
And just spread it out all on the ground. People can come in, they pick whatever kind of thing they want to work with.
Right.
And we show them how to make wreaths or swags, whatever, wreaths mainly, the old-fashioned way, and talk about the once very popular, very lucrative wreath-making business where they were sent out on the railroads, boxcar loads. So we'll be doing that at Pemberton, and this is a joint venture with Pemberton Hall Foundation and the park. And then we will have in December also, near Christmas, the first part of December, the Adkins group and our West Side group have an open house traditional Christmas festival all over town in Mardella. And we invite
That's
people.
quite the event.
It's fun. It's fun. It is. So that will be coming up in December as well.
So you also have a military banner program. Tell me about that.
That kind of fell in our laps. A young man whose mother and father are on our board, his grandparents, mother's family, live near Pittsburgh, and they went out on a family vacation about 4 years ago. And through this little town where they lived were all of these military banners hanging from the light poles.
Right.
And they were so impressed, and he was at the time, I think he was in the 9th grade, something like that, because he graduated just this year. And he said, "Mom, Dad, why can't we do this in Mardella? We should do this." So they came home, and his dad says, "My son has a suggestion." And he told me about it. I said, "I think it's wonderful." So we started the military banner program. Chase Eckert is his name, and I
Right.
give him credit because it was all his idea, and it has proved to be very, very popular. Anyone who has a relative or a friend who has ever been in the military is in there now, can purchase a banner just in honor of them. And the banner, then we have it made, and you get 2 small ones to keep for yourself. And we put the banners up. We begin putting them up in May. They don't all get up right away because it takes a while to do this, because now we're up to, I think, about 40-some banners.
Wow.
And it takes a while to put those up. But they're all up now except for the last, I think, 3 that have yet. They came in kind of late. And so they will stay there until November. We'll take them down about the time that they put Christmas banners up in town. But they stay there that long. And if you buy a banner, it goes up, we guarantee 3 years. The first ones we put up, this is their 4th year, and they still look good, so we're putting them back up.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
So much pride in Mardella Springs.
It's
It's a proud little town.
It is.
It's really a tight little town.
It is. It's the smallest town in Wycomico County.
Right.
But they do
Highway
have a lot
goes
of
right
spirit.
down the middle of it.
Right down, yes, yes. Well,
Which
it
there
kind
must
of,
be some history there. I wonder how that happened, but anyway.
well, when they put 50 through, it really kind of ended the town's economic
Yeah.
prosperity, because all of a sudden you can get to Salisbury in 15 minutes.
What can I do to support you all? Because I just think it's terrific.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. You can send a donation to us at Westside Historical Society, Post Office Box 194, Mardella Springs, Maryland, 21837. You can go on our website, and there's also information how you can do it
Nice little
online.
website, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll give credit to Caitlin Murphy for that. She does that for us. But you can donate online. And if you're particularly interested in a program, for example, the lecture series, the Delmarva Lecture Series, you can ask that your donation be credited towards that one use.
So Sylvia, what is your website so I can go see more?
Website is westsidehistorical.com. www.westside, all one word, historical, all one word, .com.
And tell me about your cool little booklet.
One of our major fundraisers every year is producing this little booklet. We call it a yearbook. And we sell ads in it, and that's our major source of funds. But we also include in it a theme, and we have all kinds of little stories. This year it's called Rediscovering Barron Creek Springs, which is about the program that I mentioned that we're trying to do, and it talks about all kinds of things that were going on in that period from 1875 to early 1900s. It also has in it a schedule of all of our events and a membership application in the back and all kinds of things that they might want to look at. So, and this is free. Pick up a copy anywhere you find us, any event, we'll have it out there. We'll be at the Wycomico County Fair with a table, it'll be there. So any place you can find us, you'll probably find some of these books laying around. So.
She's Sylvia Bradley. She is a treasure for our county. She's an asset. She makes things better. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One on One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One on One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.